This isn't your typical yard. Along with plants for wildlife, there's food right in front rather than grass and shrubs. In back, tilapia in 2 aquaponic systems supports herbs and greens for local restaurants. Contented chickens supply fresh eggs to the neighbors. In a late 60s tree-lined neighborhood, young agrarians started a microgrower farm, 10-acre organics.
We started renting this house 4 years ago in 2010, right after we graduated from school. And at first it was me and Marie, my wife, and Kim, who does our resource development for our company, 10-Acre Organics. Then in 2012, Lloyd moved here, and it started as a really small garden, and we grew from there and have turned it into what we call an urban micro farm, where we're using every bit of space that we can to grow as much food as possible.
We're talking about less than a quarter acre here, not actually 10 acres. Its name reflects their mission.
We wanted to create a model local farm as sustainable and productive as possible that we could build on the edges of cities. And without knowing where to start, we just looked around us and decided that we needed to start proving the concept in the space that we had here in our front and backyard.
We're putting these about 1.5 feet apart. I mean, you can do squash so many different ways, but I prefer to give them a little bit of space, do it 1.5 feet, and then just replant. I know a lot of folks will plant them closer together, and then, just expect that they'll get killed by the squash vine borer. Our way of dealing with the squash vine borer is just to replant.
Everybody on our team has, some non-agriculture degree. Michael's degree is in political science and mine's in psychology. But even while we were still in college, we became really passionate about sustainability and really passionate about social entrepreneurship and wanting to create a business to solve some of the major social and environmental problems that we face. And we really like food, so it was a good fit.
Yeah. And I started gardening in college in 2008 and just really enjoyed it.
We started by raising money through a Kickstarter campaign, which is Kickstarter is a website where you can raise money from the crowd. And we tried to raise $10,000, and we ended up raising almost $16,000 from almost 200 people.
Grants and their own money kicked in for supplies too. They do all the labor and construction. In front, they replaced weed-infested St. Augustine with food. Their seasonal rotation attracts neighborhood gardeners who follow their lead for when, what, and how to plant.
Had the idea of doing the diagonal rows in contrast with the winding pathway to just create a nice aesthetic, one that would be interesting from the street coming from either direction. And then we created the limestone border around the entire garden and added perennial landscaping around the outside too. So we really wanted to make it look good for the neighbors. We actually won Yard of the Month from our neighborhood association. We've got nothing but extremely positive support from everyone in the neighborhood.
Even their tomatoes look tidy thanks to their Florida weave technique.
So what we do is we use tea stakes that we place at the end of each row, and we place them about 9 inches from the last tomato on the row. And then we put 1.5 feet between each tomato. We draw string from one tea stake to the other, but weave in between each tomato. And then we do that every 6 inches or so as the tomato grows. And then kind of what you have is, at the end of the season, you have a row of tomatoes and you can walk right down it and harvest. And it doesn't require dealing with those cages which bend and are kind of expensive.
Drip irrigation promotes water conservation to the neighbors too. They partnered with Eastside Compost Peddlers to build up and nourish their soil.
They collect compost from homes in our neighborhood on their bicycles, and then they come and they drop it off here. And we get probably a couple 100 pounds of compost from them a week, and then we're able to break that down, and we have multiple stages in our hot composting bays and a bay for all of our finished compost.
We add about 2 inches of compost every season. Every time that we harvest and replant, we like to top off with compost. And the backyard was also St. Augustine grass and lots of shrubs that had grown into trees, waxleaf ligustrums. So we cleared out some of the waxleaf ligustrums and took out the grass and replaced it with garden space.
With tutelage from Austin Aquaponics, they built 2 greenhouses for their systems.
Aquaponics is a symbiotic system in which you grow fish and you grow plants. And the fish provide the organic fertilizer from their waste, and the microbes in the system, they clean the water so the fish can continue to live in it. It's a really great system for Texas because it allows us to reuse the water over and over again. It makes it 90 to 95% more water efficient than growing in the soil. We heat the fish tank in the winter, and the greenhouse retains solar heat during the day, and so they do just fine.
In summer, they swap greenhouse plastic for cooling aluminate.
The only difference between it and a normal black shade cloth is that it's reflective, and so it actually reflects away some of the light and some of the heat.
So, where do the harvests go beyond their own table?
We sell baskets of groceries, and what we do is we try to sell 10 of them at any week to neighbors and people that we work with, so that we don't have to do additional deliveries or go out of our way to get the food to them. And then the food that's produced in the aquaponics system, mostly herbs and greens, we sell it to local restaurants.
Their young chickens have just begun to lay.
We're getting about a dozen eggs a day, and so we're able to sell about 6 dozen eggs a week.
With full-time jobs, Sunday is their big community work day.
So if people are interested in learning, they can get in contact, and we're happy to have people come out and work with us, and they can learn that way.
We built this whole micro farm to prove the concept, to prove that we can grow organically and with aquaponics and with these sustainable methods, and that there was huge demand locally for that kind of food. And so now that we've proven the concept, we want to build it on a larger scale.
We had some brownie troop over here yesterday, and they got to get their hands in the dirt, and they got to, pull some carrots out of the ground and feed the fish and feed the chickens. And we have neighbors come over to experience that all the time, and I think it's something that's really neat for people who live in the city to get a little insight into where their food comes from.